So this week's readings really pushed me to rethink how we define musical theater, not just historically, but rather what makes a musical in the first place. So starting with the article, it focused a lot on how Contact challenged long-standing assumptions about the essential ingredients of a musical. In the production relied heavily on dance to tell its story. So there was pre-recorded music, meaning there was no orchestra, there were no live instruments, everything was pre-recorded. There was barely any dialogue and no original songs. So the narrative was communicated through movement alone. And what I found really interesting in this was how much the show forced audiences to grapple with the question, is a musical still a musical if the storytelling isn't rooted in a song or a traditional score? And so the debate around Contact, especially when it won Best Musical, helped me understand how much we rely on certain expectations about form. So, excuse me, it wasn't just a disagreement about one show, rather, it exposed how the field is changing. And to me, Contact shows how musical theater has always been more fluid than we like to admit. The boundaries aren't necessarily fixed, it's not locked into one place, and the shift itself is depending on the historical context, cultural taste, and so many other factors. So the article didn't just analyze a controversy, rather, it really revealed how definitions in theater are constantly negotiated and changing. And in moving to chapter 14, I see a connection between the reading and the article. And the chapter, it talks about how Broadway became a director's theater. So you see people like Jerome Robbins, Michael Bennett, Tommy Tune, and so many others. They began shaping musicals visually first. Their productions merged staging, dance, and storytelling into a unified vision. And so you see this idea of a super director come up. And that is someone who structures the entire narrative through movement, which is felt directly connected to what Contact ultimately attempted to do. And so, what really struck me is that this shift recenters physical storytelling. So, instead of relying primarily on text or score, the meaning comes from the bodies itself in the space. So, how the characters move, how the scenes transition, it's now ensemble functioning. So, when you think of shows like West Side Story, A Chorus on Chicago, the choreography isn't just an accessory. The choreography is now the story. That is what is now telling the story. And so this makes me see Contact as less of an outlier and more of a natural extension of a trend that had already been decades in the making. Contact wasn't breaking rules, rather, it was testing the limits of where the evolution could go. And so for me, and for my own understanding of musical theater, these readings, they helped me recognize how important it is to keep an open mind about what constitutes narrative. So it's not always about lines that are being spoken or sung, rather, but rather how the shows push boundaries and often teach us that they teach us most about where the form has been and where it might be headed. So, overall, it was really interesting, really good readings. And now I'm going to go have to see if I can find a recording of Contact somewhere because now I'm interested in it.